If you've ever wanted to take photos like these, you've come to the right place. Today I'm going to show you my process for taking sunrise portraits at the beach. We're going to go over every aspect of a shoot, including planning, gear, lighting, composition, how I shoot, and editing. At the end of this video, you should know enough to go and take some great sunrise photos. For prep, you'll need to choose a location, day, and a time. I'm going to the beach on a Saturday at 6 a.m. Sun doesn't rise until 7, but it's better to get there early to set up. For gear, you'll really only need your camera for this shoot, but I'd recommend bringing a towel to set your stuff on and a UV filter. UV filters are cheap and protect your lens from the sand. Now that we have everything, I'll see you in the morning. All right, we made it to the beach and now we can shoot. When shooting at sunrise, you have 3 different options. You can shoot into the light, you can shoot away from the light, or you can shoot with the light to your side. Depending on how you position your camera in comparison to your light source will change the look and feel of your final photo. Let's go shoot. All right, let's get this shoot going. Now that you're out here ready to shoot, you sort of just have to experiment with angles. Shoot from this angle, we'll walk over here, maybe shoot from this angle and see how the lighting already changes. It's a lot darker in camera. There's no light hitting you. If you shoot this way, maybe more light from the sun is hitting him. And yeah, first I'll have you face towards me. So this will be like our silhouette shot. So mainly when we're wanting to frame this one, we'll want a slightly higher ISO so that we can get like exposed for our lights correctly. And because we're facing into the light, our shadows will be darker. And so we can still get a good silhouette, and then if we need to bring our shadows down later, we can. Tight on your head. Look to your left or your right, whatever really works. And I'll get one just like that for the cinematic. Maybe this is the thumbnail. Get a low angle. Get a wide angle. And you really just have to play around with your lights, play around with your compositions and angles, and just really see what you can come up with. So now we can get some of the light hitting his face just like this. So you notice now that I've stepped with the sun to the angle here. When he looks into the sun, you have a little more of that light hitting his face. Versus like when I was shooting silhouette, he was totally darkened. Now I'll shoot this way, and you'll probably have to up your ISO if you're facing into the dark, just to make it look a little less muddy. And again, just play with your angles, play with your compositions, see what you can work with here. If your model is great, like Mason here, he'll just auto pose like an absolute legend because he's done this so much, he's just good at posing. So get yourself a model that already knows what they're doing, and it'll be less stress trying to coordinate times for your sunrise. Do you mind walking down this way more? We'll walk and get some like reflection shots. Something like this, if you want to work with the ground here since the water's coming up, we'll get some nice reflection shots. Just like this. Once you've shot your photos, loaded them into Lightroom, and selected your favorites, you can start the editing process. For me, this process always starts with framing, then looking at lighting, white balance, color, lighting again, and then final details. So this is the photo I'm working with. From the start, I'm looking at this photo and I'm seeing that the framing could have been better and I could crop this to make it look better. So I'm gonna take it to 3x4 and just bring it in a little tighter. That would be something like this. So from here, I'll start to look at lighting. Since this is a silhouette shot, I want my shadows to be darker and I can still see good amount of the body. So I'm gonna bring my exposure down just like this. And from here, I'll just play around with the rest of the lighting, probably bring up my contrast by a few, up my highlights by a few, bring my shadows down. And with shadows, I don't wanna make it so dark to where none of it is recognizable like this, because in my opinion, this just looks fake and not as good. I'll bring them down a little bit to where facial features are just barely recognizable. Now I'll move into whites and then blacks. Then I'll go into curves. Again, this is something that you just sort of have to feel out and see what you like and don't like. And it's really just something that comes with time. For me, I also like experimenting with this bottom point. I'll always drag it up to see if I like my shadows being a little gray. In this case, I don't. I'll move into color sections of the curves and adjust these a little bit. Now on to greens and purples. Nothing too major. Just making small adjustments to what could make it look slightly better, not making the photo look completely altered to what it never would have even looked like. Now that we're done with curves, we hit the white balance, and then we can go on to the color mixer. This is something I don't always use. I only really touch it if I see a color in a photo that I really just don't like it being there. I'll go in here and I'll edit these to slightly switch things up to make sure that the photo looks exactly how I want. Next, I'll go into color grading. This tends to be really simple. You don't want to overdo it like with this. Pushing so much green really just looks bad in my opinion. So I'll push a little bit of green just to maintain that like tealish blue and orange contrast around the outside. And shadows, I'll cool them down just a little bit, and that's the before, that's the after. It's such a tiny difference, almost not noticeable, but me, I just like those small details. I'm gonna look at my lighting again just to see if I can make any last little changes, last little tweaks. Do I want the blacks a little darker, a little lighter? Do I want more shadow or less shadow? I might actually bring my shadow up just a little bit and maybe drop my highlights by just a little bit, and changes that aren't super noticeable, but they're good things to just have in mind. Lastly, we'll go into small details like texture, clarity, dehaze, and vignette and grain. I don't really touch these a lot, but for this photo, I'll drop my clarity down just to add a little more softness to the background of the image. I think it helps highlight the subject more and just gives a more soft, dreamy look, which is what I was going for here. Now that I've walked you through my process, here's a before and after. I hope showing you my process for editing these photos gave you an idea on where to start in your own edits. Thanks for watching. I hope you gained something from this. Follow me here on Instagram, and happy shooting.